Hey there, Hoops fans. How you doing? It's your boy, Jonathan Macri, with you here for another special edition of, I don't know, talking hoops for OddsChecker with Adam Taylor. I don't know, Adam, do we have a name for our show? We should come up with something, right?
I think, didn't we agree on what are the odds?
Oh, what are the odds? That's right. Yes. What are the odds? It's
Episode
a good name.
3, we will get there. We will get there.
Maybe by episode 7, I'll remember what the name is.
Apparently, the odds that we chose last week were not the right odds because everything we selected did not happen. I will say that injuries played a very big part in our picks not working out.
Yes.
The episode goes live, it goes onto the YouTubes and it goes onto the articles, and then 20 minutes later you get a notification that Anthony Davis has hurt himself.
The interwebs. It was I really particularly enjoyed last week when we spent a solid 7 to 8 minutes talking about all the different future prop bets that you could make involving the Lakers in the finals. That was great. That was
a good 28% of the show.
I don't know what fantastic.
It's just going to be all about the Brooklyn Nets. That's all we can do.
I think the problem was that the Lakers didn't get the memo that they were supposed to make it all the way to the finals. Is that the issue?
Yeah, I mean, what else can it be? I don't even know. Words.
Are you no real talk for a second? Should we? We're gonna get to all the different series and whatnot. Should we be sitting here like shocked that this happened to the Lakers? Because I feel like for as much as we were like, well, the Lakers are the safest bet, sitting here now, it does seem a little bit silly that we were that like, oh, well, the Lakers, it's the Lakers, they're going to figure out a way to do this.
It was the LeBron James effect. Did you expect LeBron to make it out of the first round of the playoffs? I think that one of the bigger problems is Phoenix just aren't a respected team right now. I mean, they're earning that respect.
Absolutely.
I've slept on them all year. I remember coming into the season, I said to somebody, I don't care how good Phoenix play in the regular season, it's not going to work out once you get to the playoffs. I always thought Portland were going to be a bigger team than them in the West. Okay. And I just think that's just because of the perception of Phoenix as a franchise. They're consummate underachievers. And then when you put them up against the Lakers with the amount of talent that was supposedly in that rotation and how they'd handled not having stars throughout the regular season, I think it was fair that we kind of had it as a foregone conclusion, but maybe we were a little bit too much leaning to one side there.
Well, I mean, Paul was hurt. We should say that. And then he kind of made something of a recovery towards the end of the series. And then obviously the Davis thing happened, but I think what's going to, and this is a good kind of entryway into talking about what lies ahead and what's interesting about the rest of the playoffs is a lot of the things that we thought we kind of knew, we don't really know anymore. So for instance, I'll give you an example. So Phoenix beat the Lakers, right? Usually when you dethrone a defending champ, it's like, oh, okay, that's a big deal, right? That's something we should take very seriously. But now sitting here, with a couple days to digest it, and like thinking about the moves the Lakers make and how they really didn't work out and what they were and what more importantly what they weren't. Maybe the Lakers just weren't all that good. And when you take Anthony Davis away, obviously they were really not that good. And so what does that now mean for our perception of Phoenix going forward? Should we be like, oh, this is the team that took down the champs? Or, looking at, for instance, the series that they have now coming up with Denver, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, like something is going to happen in this series. And then it's going to alter our perception of like, okay, going forward. But typically in the playoffs, certain things. And maybe this is a little truer in one series, obviously, that we're going to talk about in the East. But the rest of the playoffs, it's like, I don't know. What do we really know? Like, Adam Taylor, what do you know right now is true about the NBA?
I know absolutely nothing about what to expect for the next few weeks.
Not a blessed thing. I know one thing.
What's that?
And we spoke about it before the season. We were both on record as talking about this. And the team I'm going to go to. And it pains me to say this, obviously, because I'm a Knicks aficionado, if you will. But I think we both had the Nets in the finals before the season started, right?
I had the Nets in the finals from the moment they had KD and Kyrie, and you knew they were going to be healthy together. So adding James Harden was just, it It was unfair. I want a very big explanation from Adam Silver at the end of the season as to why he allowed it to happen.
I think you might want to place your phone call to Raphael Stone. I will still never get over the the trade itself is whatever. We'll see what happens with all those picks, but the Victor Oladipo, Karis LeVert aspect of that trade is just astonishing. Anyway, we don't have to talk about that right now. Yeah, and obviously they lost Harden in the first minute of game 1 against the Bucks. But we even said, we've been doing this now. This is our 3rd week. We've been saying for a few weeks now. I mean, like, look, it makes the most sense, to go with the Nets. And so I will see what happens. I mean, Harden's going to be out, obviously is out for game 2. We'll see. Maybe the Bucks steal that game. But let's go here. Are they the presumptive favorite right now?
I think they have to be, but I also don't know if they're even going to get that far.
They could lose this series.
Yeah, they could. And if they don't, then there's a very good chance that they come up against Philadelphia next, where they could lose. And I just have a few questions about. Look, I think that when you're at this level of playoff with this level of talent against a team with a very fair amount of talent themselves that match up very well against you, it comes a lot down to coaching, and it comes down to your X's and O's and your adjustments. And I just don't have the faith in Budenholzer to be able to make the adjustments necessary to win this series. I just simply do not have the faith in him.
I think that's a good, and it's funny because we're talking about Budenholzer, who is not a one-time Coach of the Year recipient. He's a 2-time Coach of the Year winner, coaching against a guy who, forget about that, he hasn't won any coaching awards. This is his first year as an NBA head coach, but even further than that, he's never coached at any level. And we're giving him the coaching advantage because
he's got the D'Antoni in his corner, though.
Yes, he does, and he's one of the all-time NBA geniuses, and I get that. I honestly, I think if we're gonna focus on that series as like, okay, we know, here's what we know. We know the winner of that series is going to be a really good team, and I think we know that the winner of that series should probably be favored to win the whole thing, and it should be the Nets because they're up 1-0 again as we record this on Monday night. Here's the other thing, though. The Nets hit a lot of shots. A lot of really tough shots. Blake Griffin was hitting shots. Joe Harris hitting shots. Forget about Kyrie and KD. Those guys always hit shots. The Bucks, when it comes down to it, who do you trust? And maybe this is recency bias because I just watched Chris Middleton go. What did he go the other day? It went 2 for something, 3 for something. What?
It was ugly.
It was bad. Actually, I think it was more like 6 for 22 or 23. It was bad. Who do you really trust on that team to make a tough shot when it comes down to it? Because Giannis doesn't take anything, or I mean, yes, he took a few threes and he made a couple of them, and I get that, but like that's not reliable. He lives in the paint. Drew Holiday put up some long ones, didn't look great. Middleton, I don't know. When you have the shot makers on the other side of the ball, if you're saying, okay, well then maybe the Bucks are going to win it with defense. Well, it sure didn't look like they were going to be able to win it with defense the other night.
Blake Griffin got 18 and 14. If Blake Griffin is getting 18 and 14, defense was not working.
It's a problem. Yeah. That's it.
And especially when Griffin was acquired by the Nets, and we were saying to ourselves, well, what Griffin's going to do is open things up for everybody else with his playmaking. No one was saying, oh, he's going to be a double points and rebounds, because that's just not who he is at this point in his career.
We didn't know if he was going to play really significant minutes, and here he is now starting games.
I think certainly didn't know if he was going to dunk.
and he had a nice dunk the other night. So that's we'll see what happens with that series, but that's the one series we know. Everything else, we thought Philly was gonna, or at least look. And I have a lot of respect for Atlanta after they summarily wiped the floor. I could say it, summarily wiped the floor with the Knicks over the last. I'll say over the last 3 games of that series. Those last 3 games were not. None of them were like necessarily blowouts, although some of the scores were blowout-ish by the end. But like, look, Atlanta came in and did that. I still thought that Philly was gonna be like, okay, now it's the adult in the room. And there goes Atlanta winning game 1, and yet Atlanta is still the longest odds to win the championship as of right now, 20-1. And at the same time, like, I don't know. I'm not really particularly enticed by Atlanta 20-1. I feel like I need Atlanta like 50-1 to actually get me to put some significant money down on them. Well,
I mean, do you think they're we've just spoke about how we haven't been paying the Suns the respect they deserve because of
I know where you're going with
you
this.
know what I mean? Like, what if this? I mean, I remember at the beginning of the season, me and you were on record saying, and you very much so led the way in this discussion. There was just too many cooks for the kitchen.
Yes.
And we weren't sure where the touches were going to come from.
Yes.
And who was going to be numero uno, numero two, numero three.
And they've figured that out.
They've figured that out. And I think their defense is a lot better than what we give them credit for. I think that Hunter's actually found a role for himself in that rotation.
Yeah. Although he missed game one,
which they still played really well.
But again, Solomon Hill is a guy you could plug in. And
this is what I'm saying. They're deeper than what we're giving them credit for. There is talent, probably 1 through 10 there.
So
they can lose one of their 8-man rotation and plug someone like Solomon Hill in and feel completely comfortable with that.
Here's why I don't think they're on the same level as Phoenix is because you're talking at the top comparing Chris Paul and Devin Booker. Chris Paul is literally an all-time, what is he? Top 25. Well, depending on what happens this year, we'll see. Top 20, top 25 all-time player. And then you have Booker. I mean, a diminished version of Paul, so Booker's their best player, but like Trey, okay, fine. You want to put Trae Young on the level of Booker. I'm not putting Bogdanovich on the level of Paul, not even a diminished version of Paul.
But who would you say? So you'd say, I think we both agree that Chris Paul is the best player in that series.
Oh, I see. I think it's Booker. I think Booker has ascended to that level.
So you think Devin Booker is the best player in that series?
Hold on, the series that Phoenix is now playing against Denver. Or you're talking about
I've got confused. If you look
Phoenix versus Atlanta, who's the best player in the series? I think.
So what I'm trying to get at is it's all well and good having the best player if the opposing team then has players 2, 3, and 4 is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah, but see, I think it's close at the top. I think I give the edge to Booker and Paul over Young and Bogdanovich. Capella, I actually might give a slight edge to Aiden, although Aiden can do more stuff. But then the rest of the roster, I like Atlanta's pieces. I like Phoenix's pieces more. I trust Jay Crowder more in the playoffs. I think Mikal Bridges. But
then the question becomes, we're not looking at Atlanta versus Phoenix in terms of skill now. We're looking at Atlanta versus Philly. And we know that Ben Simmons and Embiid are the better 2 guys.
Yes.
But when it comes to the depth chart, who do you feel more comfortable about? If you was to take the 2 stars out of each team, which team are you more comfortable running with?
Well, it's also about fit. Like, yes, Philly, Embiid is the best player in the series. Ben Simmons, you could have an argument between him and Trae Young, 2-way play. But like, I don't know. It's like, where was Ben Simmons' defensive advantage in game 1, for example? And when does that come back? I mean, look, it still helps that he's a very good defender, but it sure didn't, make as big of an impact as maybe I think a lot of people expected in game 1. So that's interesting because Philly's 14-1 again to win the whole thing. 5-1 to get to the finals, which is fascinating to me. And if you were, so this is one, hold on. So I know I see that smirk. So this is one of those things where we were talking, I think at some point a week or 2 weeks ago, and you're like, okay, look, Philly's they're going to get to the conference finals. And whatever the odds were at that time for them to make the finals, so I think it was 3-1, maybe like, plus 350, something like that. Now it's 5-1. Is this the best time to put a few bucks down on Philly? Are we sleeping on Philly?
I think the odds have gone a bit longer due to that first game loss.
And Embiid, too, we don't know how long Embiid's going to be able to stay upright and doing what he's doing.
And he really put in a shift towards the end of that game to try.
Yes, he did.
He really, really tried to put that team on his back. And to be fair to you, that is something
he almost did.
You have to give Embiid the credit because in previous years, Embiid would have gave up. He would have mentally quit. So seeing that itself is a testament to his growth as a player. I know this isn't that type of podcast, but you have to give him credit there.
No, but it is that type of podcast because when you're talking about this sort of playoffs where there's so much parity, I think identifying someone who's like, no, this guy, this is this guy's turn to take a leap, to take a step up in the, whatever, the echelon. Like when you're talking about, there's great players and then there's like the cream of the crop. I have always thought that Embiid had that in him. Is that what we're seeing right now? And even though they lost the first game, I don't know.
I
Maybe.
just feel like I still feel too good about Philly's length and defense and switchability.
Okay.
The only thing is, Trae Young is a crafty so-and-so. He
So
is. It's like, I didn't want to swear. It's like
I think it's safe to swear.
when you watch Steph, and Steph's movement is just ridiculous and it's spellbinding because he never stops moving. He's dragging defense.
Yeah.
Trae Young is on that path. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Steph because I don't believe he will be, but his movement is very similar. The way he manipulates defenses with the ball in his hand is very similar.
Well, I wonder if we're going to look back on this playoffs for Trae Young like we look back on the Golden State, the first, fairly certain it was the first year that they were in the playoffs.
Was that the last Mark Jackson
year? It was the first Mark Jackson year. So the second Mark Jackson year was when they faced the Clippers and Doc, actually, in the first round they lost. That was the Donald Sterling series. The year before that is when they beat Denver in the first round and they put a little scare into San Antonio in the second round, and that was the San Antonio team that I believe ended up, they went to the finals or they won the finals, one or the other. So But that was Steph's coming out party, and this feels like Trae Young's coming out party. But maybe this is the high point of that, them being up 1-0 on Philly in the second round, and maybe now it's time for Philly to come back and be like, look, we're the 1 seed, we're the team that has been able to do this all year, we're gonna figure this out. And maybe we look back and like after Philly wins in like 6 games, we're gonna be like, oh, remember when we thought like Atlanta had a chance? So leaning on that for a second. Philly 14-1 at this point to win the whole thing. Think about that for 1 sec. You're getting 14-1 on a 1 seed to win the championship.
That's insane.
In the second round, after they've smoked their first round opponent, and I get the Embiid thing is like a huge caveat here, but I don't know, because if you go that we talked about this last week. Does the second round series with the Bucks and the Nets battle test those teams and elevate them to something greater, or does it drain them? Because I still think that series is going to
That's going 7. Yeah, I think it drains you. I think it has to, and the quicker that Philadelphia can dispatch Atlanta,
which again is
it's not easy. I've got a feeling that's a 7-game series, to be quite honest.
It could be.
What I will say is, if you're taking 14-1 on Philly, and this is just a bit of fun here, what you're really doing is taking 14-1 on Dwight Howard to win his 2nd ring in as many years. And ask yourself how comfortable you feel with that, because that is what you are really putting your money on.
Listen, man, it's been Armageddon in the world the last 2 years. Why can't Dwight Howard have 2 straight championships? I mean, maybe this is a sign that the world is truly ending. It's one
of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
It is Dwight Howard. Maybe he'll win when he wins Finals MVP. Then we'll really know. I don't know. I just because here's the thing: will they get past the winner of Philly Brooklyn? Probably not. That's why they're 5-1 odds to win the East. But just the 5-1 to win the East, and then 14-1 to win the whole thing. If they get out of the East, I'm sorry, and this is a good transition for us to now talk about the West. I'm sorry, but I don't see the team out West who's going to get to the finals and be like, oh, well, obviously they're a favorite to beat Philly. If it's Denver, no. Phoenix, all due respect to what you said before, no, I'm not taking them. Utah, no. And then the one team is the Clippers, which maybe that's who we should talk about next. So as of the most current odds I have, it looks like to win the whole thing, Clippers are 5-1. That, and this is again after they've won the game 7. That, to me, of looking at all of the bets on the board, it sure seems like the best value to me.
I think the biggest question you've got to ask yourself is, how hard are they going to make it on themselves, get into that finals? We're talking about Brooklyn being drained from having a 7-game series and then possibly going another 7 against Philadelphia. Can the Clippers kind of use the momentum they got from winning that game 7 and make it a 5-game series, a gentleman's sweep against Utah? Because the one thing I don't have confidence in is the Clippers consistently winning game 7s. I just don't have confidence there in them. I think they're a really talented team, but for some reason, I just don't have this like huge belief that I had in them last year. And I don't know if that's once bitten, twice shy, but you know,
listen, here's the thing here's my argument. Maybe, and let me preface this by saying this Dallas team is not good in terms of team. The Dallas team is not good. Porzingis, I can't wait to see what happens with this guy in the offseason.
I've had a lot of Porzingis discussions today.
Oh, I'm sure you involving a Mr. Kemba Walker and Mr. Kemba. Let's trade one guy's shitty knees for another guy's shitty knees. Which knees do you like?
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to give you the good locker room guy with shitty knees, and we're going to take back the bad locker room guy with shitty knees and an extra year of money, because that sounds smart.
But speaking of smart, maybe you should throw Marcus Smart in the trade. Man, well, we don't have to talk. So suffice it to say, the Dallas team is not a great team, but they have. I don't know. Is he the best? Is he the best player in the sport right now? So who's in the conversation? Well, listen, LeBron is home already. So I don't want to hear.
Is he the best? Are you asking? Is he the best player left in the playoffs? Is that the question?
Well, no, he's out of the playoffs right now as we record this. I'm Doncic right now. Is he the best player in the sport? Who else is in the conversation? Durant's in the conversation. Kawhi, playoff Kawhi.
Yeah, playoff Kawhi.
Playoff Kawhi is in the conversation, and Jokic, I guess, is in the conversation as well.
For some reason, I thought you were talking about Jokic. Who else is there? No, I think that's it.
I'm not putting Giannis. I'm not putting Giannis in there. Not right now. I'm not putting this version of Embiid because we don't know Embiid's banged up.
Yeah.
Here's my point. Maybe we look back at this first round series as like, oh wow, that was the toughest series that the Clippers needed to get through.
Which is fair.
They needed to get through that guy, and they needed to do it when they were not prepared to play in the first couple games, because that's the other part of this, right? I think it says something about them that they're I think they're the 4th team to come back from being 0-2 down after losing the first 2 at home. That's like takes some mental toughness to do.
Game 7 was the first game in that series they won at home.
Yeah, I know. It's the first game anybody won.
Yeah, that was a crazy series in general.
Crazy series, insane series, fun series.
Who do you have though? Do you have how long did you see this series between the Clippers and the Jazz going?
I think it's gonna be a long series. I think it's gonna be a long series. But I could also see the Clippers winning in 6 games. I could see the Clippers winning one of the first 2. I could see the Clippers taking both games in LA. And then I could see Jazz winning game 5, Clippers winning game 6. If I had to right now, that would be. I don't know.
The Jazz is they dare you to shoot those mid-range jumpers, and Kawhi will just live in that mid-range area, and you just can't do that. So the Jazz are going to have to change their entire defensive rotations.
Well, the other part of it that makes it very interesting, and we got a little preview of this, and I shouldn't say that. I'm not comparing Boban, who I love, to Rudy Gobert, who's the best defensive player in the NBA in the last several years. But like we got a little preview of like the small versus big, right? Especially in game 7 when Dallas felt they needed to go to Boban to have any chance of winning, and obviously it didn't work. But like, the Clippers Zubac played 3 minutes in game 7. He's essentially out of the rotation. The Clippers are going with I have the box score right here. So here's what the Clippers are going with essentially right now. They're going with Marcus Morris at center. Obviously the two wings. Batum, I don't know what position you want to give him, and Reggie Jackson. That's their 5. with Terrence Mann and Luke Kennard. Those are their 7 guys. I don't know. Does Patrick Beverley see a little time in the series? Maybe. Does Rondo see a little time in the series? I don't know. But like, if you want to give me the argument against the Clippers, it's that they don't have enough guys. When Terrence Mann is your 6th man, I don't know if I should have a lot of confidence. That's the thing.
I mean, Mann was good.
Man was very good. He was
good.
Phenomenal.
But I get what you're saying. I completely get what you're saying. They're very top heavy. Very, very top heavy.
But they're good. I don't know.
You don't need too much depth in the playoffs. You only need an 8-man rotation, 9 at a push.
Well, you need
injury.
See, but I think that's a bit of a misnomer. You only need 7 guys to win a game. But you need more than 7 guys to win 1, 2. How many games they have left to win? 12 games.
Yeah, you need more than 7 guys. You need a 10-man rotation there. It's people you can plug in for situations. And look, I get that.
This was a game 7, so that's why you didn't see Rondo and Zubac and like all those other guys, and they can play those guys, so that it's going to extend more than a 7 games. But I don't know. It's tricky. I guess I don't know. Maybe I'm not talking myself into 5-1 being good. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's interesting. Can we talk about Mr. Jokic for a second? I'd like to discuss him.
If you want to talk about Mr. Jokic, I'm happy to talk about Mr. Jokic.
Let's finish up by talking about Mr. Jokic because I think he's, again, Rodney Dangerfield. I was a big fan of. Did you ever watch Rodney Dangerfield comedy when you were younger? Caddyshack? Were you a Caddyshack fan?
No, I was not a Caddyshack fan. I think that was a few years before.
Okay.
My humor.
I think you should revisit it, but that's just my 2 cents. You're a little younger than me. I feel like as the older one of us, I could say that. Rodney Dangerfield gets made a career out of getting no respect, and so here's Nikola Jokic. He just, after losing game 1 against Portland, the Denver Nuggets ran off 4 out of 5. Against the Blazers. Wasn't easy. Took double overtime game and then obviously game there was a come from behind victory in game 6. I get all that. But he's the MVP. He is without question the best player in the sport this season. I know we just had the Doncic and Kawhi.
Yeah, but this season there's no argument.
No, zero argument. They're 8-1 to win the West right now. So they have the best player in the series against Phoenix. All due respect to Devin Booker, all due respect to Chris Paul. They have the best player in the series. They still have Michael Porter Jr., who's pretty good.
Who's took a leap this year. He's a lot better this year than
he was. Did he finish? Did he end up finishing second in most improved, or was it Jeremy Graham? Whoever it was, he was in the top 3.
Yes.
Aaron Gordon is there. They have other big guys as well. They still have Millsap. They have JaMychal
that
Green.
Murray injury, man. They'd be favorites right now.
It's not obviously aside from even Murray. It's also Barton who hasn't played, and then their other guard who would be getting time right now. I'm gonna look it up because it's gonna bother me. But they listen. Austin Rivers, Campazzo, got a little Monty Morris action. Like, are these starting caliber NBA playoff guards? Probably not. But like, when you have the MVP and the MVP is running your offense, can you get enough hot shooting Rivers, Campazzo, Morris, whoever games to eke out 4 wins and 7 tries against the Phoenix Suns? I don't know. I don't think it's nuts at all.
I think that the way the Nuggets run their offense and the way that they're going to use Aaron Gordon in this series, I've just got a feeling they're going to use Aaron Gordon more off ball above the rim. I don't know. I just feel like they match up well. They do. Ayton's going to be a real big rim deterrent, but he's going to be pulled so far away from the rim because of Jokic, dude.
So you trust Ayton? You trust Ayton in this series? Is that that's really where you're planting your flag? You're planting your flag on DeAndre Ayton Island? Come on.
Yes, that's where I'm planting my flag. No, that's not what I said at all. That's not what I said. I said he'd be a good ring deterrent.
PJ Dozier was the guy that I was thinking of. Yeah.
I just feel like honestly, I feel like Denver's the better team in this series. And I don't know whether again that's us sleeping on the Suns. But you said this a lot, and I kind of buy into a very similar ideology. The team with the best player is usually the team that wins.
Not always, but
we said usually,
Yeah.
8 out of 10. And if you're asking the team to win 4 out of 7, ideally they should be the team coming through. But do you count out Chris Paul and Devin Booker?
Well, let me just say, Barton is not out for the series. He's out for game 1. There was originally some optimism that he would be back for game 1. He's not going to be back for game 1. If they get a split in the first 2 games and then Barton comes back and then maybe Dozier comes, I'm just saying 8-1 odds to make the finals if they get past Phoenix, which I realize is not going to be easy. If they get past Phoenix, then you have either a rematch with the Clippers from last year, which that's fun. That's juicy. Or you have a matchup with the Jazz, which I'm sorry, but I like that matchup for Denver. I like Jokic versus Gobert. I don't know. I'd say 8-1's not crazy for me. It's not crazy.
So let's round it up with this. In the West, we know now more than what we knew last week. So we know the 4 teams left in the West right now.
We do.
If you had to choose, who would you see winning the Western Conference? Just the Western Conference.
If you force me to pick right now,
gun to the head.
I'm picking the Clippers. If you force me to pick a finals matchup right now, I'm picking Clippers Nets, and I would probably take the Nets over the Clippers. If you force me to pick right now, you know, I don't know why the Jazz are favored over the Clippers, if I'm being honest, and they're slight favorites. It's not.
That's the regular season form for you. That's playing a part in these odds.
I just don't understand how the favorite is the team that doesn't have forget about the best player. They don't have the second best player. All due respect to Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George is the second best player in that series. If he's right, is Paul George always right? No, he's not. But why? Who's your finals matchup right now?
I think I'd go Denver.
You're picking Denver.
Let me look. Maybe. I want to look at this.
See, I thought you were going to pick Phoenix.
No, I'm not picking Phoenix. I don't think Phoenix come past this Denver series.
See, I've convinced you. I've sold you on the magic of Jokic.
And I don't think the Clippers find a way. Look, if it's a Nuggets-Clippers Western Conference Finals, then the Nuggets are coming into it with the best player in that series. Are we agreed on that?
If it's Nuggets well, oh god, man.
If you've got a conference finals with Kawhi, Paul George, and Jokic, is Jokic your best player in that series?
I don't know how to answer that question because Jokic again firmly established himself as the best player of the season, but Kawhi is arguably the best
postseason playoff
player of the last.
No, I'm gonna have to go the same with you, man. The Clippers and the Nets are gonna be in the finals. But we made some shouts last week and they all turned wrong. So what we're doing now is signing teams' exit warrants. We're saying, right, we've said you're going to win. So by the time we come back next week, you're going to be free and zip down. I've made you
I really do think that we might look back on that Clippers series and say that the Clippers Mavs series and say that was the one they needed to get by. That was the monkey they had to get off their back, as opposed to that revealed the flaws in their team. I just think they ran into a buzzsaw with Doncic and more. And by the way, it wasn't just Doncic. The Mavs shot in games over 50% from 3 in games 1 and 2. Had over 50% in games 1, 2, and 3 that series. Like they were flames firing out of their butts. And then after the first three games,
they cool off a little bit.
Game 4 was kind of a blowout, and then and obviously the Clippers won game 6 and 7 too. So I don't know. I would go Clippers Nets right now, but that's boring.
I kind of like Denver as if I'm going to choose my dark horse team.
Well, listen.
Okay, so my alternate finals my alternate finals, the one where you're going to get better odds, the one where it's less likely to happen, but it's still a possibility, and one I'd personally enjoy very much, would be Sixers versus Nuggets. That'd be my alternate finals.
I was gonna say, how about the one team we haven't really talked about a lot, again, because they just did not look impressive in game one against the Nets. It helps, or it didn't help that they had 6 3-point field goals out of 30 attempts. Is the Bucks. Nuggets Bucks would be fun. Nuggets Bucks. It's not gonna happen, but Nuggets Bucks would be fun. Nuggets Bucks, and listen, you want to talk about a series you get some odds for. You want to put some money down on Nuggets Bucks, you can make a few bucks on that.
You can lose a few bucks.
Well, I'm saying, $50. You know, $50 on Nuggets Bucks, like that's. I mean, it's not great. I don't know. See, but this is why these playoffs are great. We can sit here and legitimately talk ourselves into almost any
scenario. Yeah.
And I love, by the way, how the one thing that I wrote you earlier today that we're going to talk about, we didn't even talk about, which is most fun matchups. I was like thinking Clippers Suns, because you got the Chris Paul thing.
I mean, we did.
We're not in that way.
Not in that way.
But
I have sold myself on a possible Nuggets Sixers finals here.
Nuggets, I'd love Nuggets Sixers. I'm a big man guy. I grew up watching Shaq and
Me too.
Yeah. I hate he destroyed Ewing all the time, so that hurts. But like I enjoyed watching Shaq. So like any big man, like Nuggets Sixers would be a fun big man series, obviously. Yeah, I guess that's the only one. And Jokic going against Gobert, I think would be a good time in the conference finals.
Conference finals.
Yeah.
Well, we got at the moment we're gonna get let me make sure I'm factual on this before I finish. In the moment we're gonna get Jokic Ayton, and John Macri basically accused me of planting my flag on Ayton Island, which means he is subconsciously actually planting his own flag there.
I have zero faith in DeAndre Ayton.
He's too young, dude. This is a learning experience for him. Every minute on the floor is valuable for his future, not for right now.
Yeah, but you go learn someplace else. You don't learn against this fucking monster. He's Jokic is he's a different animal. Okay.
Yeah, he's giving hope to the dad bods of the entire world, man.
He lost some weight. You know, between him and Doncic, I have a lot of
regular guys, dude.
When Doncic leans over in a certain fashion, you could see all of like the lumps. He really dude, you're the best player in the league. Hit the gym, man.
It's that Eastern European physique, man. Just ridiculously strong, heavily potato based diet. They're just big guys, dude. Big, strong guys.
Heavily potato based.
It is.
I love it.
I'm European. I know this stuff.
I listen. Again, this is where you come for the high quality intel. Before we get out of here, Adam, you want to tell folks at home where they could find you and your pleasantries?
So I'm usually rambling on Twitter and Instagram at Adam Taylor NBA. You'll find me at CelticsBlog.com, rambling even more about the Boston Celtics, and you will usually find me somewhere where Jonathan Macri is, because if you didn't know, he's currently selling a mug with multiple different pictures of his face all the way around this mug.
That is not me. I have nothing to do with that. I don't even run the Knicks Film School store.
I have been very close to paying the international shipping just to own myself a Jonathan Macri's mug. And it's literally a mug of your mug. It's brilliant.
It's a mug. My wife purchased it, and it still is. It bugs me out that it's in
your
my
wife
house.
Put it up on Twitter, and that was where I actually first saw it, and I had to say to her, "Where did you obtain this?"
Wild madness.
Have you got one to show to the camera before you go, so everyone can see what they'd be purchasing?
No, I only have my glass that's empty now.
I think for the next episode we'll make
next episode. It was filled with some sake. That's
how many have been sold of those mugs, dude?
I hope not many. For the sake of humanity. Go follow Adam Taylor NBA. You can follow me, JC Macri, NBA. We went through this entire episode without talking about the Celtics, who were the top story of the NBA this week. So you owe me for that I did not make you talk more about the Celtics after the week that just was.
Marcus Smart plus Romeo Langford, and a pick from Malcolm Brogdon.
That's interesting. I had somebody pitch something to me today online. What do we have? What's the Mavs pick? 21, 21 and 32, and Frank in a sign and trade. I think this is right for Smart.
Boston can't do a sign and trade. They're too far. They're too far above the tax line. So
okay.
They'd get
okay. So then put Knox in instead. So Knox, 21 and 32 for Smart. Yeah.
I don't think that's enough.
I told him I didn't think Boston would do that.
Yeah, I don't think that's enough. Knox just isn't good enough. Like you'd have to pay us to take Knox.
So mean. All right, so fine. Though. Forget about it. Then Knox isn't in the deal. 21 and 32.
Plus Barrett.
Yeah. Okay. We're done here. All right. Everybody, thanks for checking out another episode of What Are the Odds? See, I remembered it the second time with myself and Adam Taylor. Again, Adam Taylor, NBA on Twitter, JC Macri, NBA on Twitter. And we will be back with more stone cold shenanigans, and locks and other things before you know it.
Unfortunately.